Hello and welcome to Shredify podcast, the show where we are diving in the world of fitness, health, business, and transformation. My name is Luca, and I'm thrilled to introduce my next guest, Jeremy. Welcome. I know you since 2016, and from this time, I remember that you were and you are one of the most famous personal trainers here in Dubai. The guy who knows what he's doing. You changed many lives. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind introduction. I don't know about famous, but yeah, I have been in Dubai for going on 11 years now. So I've worked with countless people, countless. But I love living here. I love being a trainer. So happy to get into this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, today we are going to discuss about strength training, about hormones, Ozempic.
Yep.
So let's start with the strength.
Sure.
So when it comes to strength, beyond physical appearance, what are some underrated benefits of strength training overall?
Well, I mean, I think with strength training in general, initially people get into it for transformations. In other words, they want to either build muscle or lose body fat or sometimes both. I think in terms of longevity, now we're looking at adults in their last quarter of their life that have more muscle tissue. They're tending to be without any ailments moving forward. So, for instance, if you're 65 or 75, what happens to the body? The muscle starts to decrease, the bone density starts to decrease, so you become a lot more likely to have an accident. And when you do have an accident, you're likely to stay in hospital for a longer period of time. What we're seeing now is with males and females who have more muscle tissue and more strength later in life tend to avoid all those complications with breaks and with injuries and sicknesses coming off of that. So I think strength training now has become almost essential for older adults. But I mean, even younger adults in terms of sports performance and overall health and well-being, I mean, there's not many better things you can do for your body than weight train 3 or 4 times a week.
I agree. I heard somewhere if you are, let's say, if you are all your life out of any exercise, physical activity, God forbid, something happened to your hip, you break your hip, you have 70% chance of dying.
Yeah. So it's probably not the break that's going to kill you. It's probably the illnesses that come after, which is usually pneumonia. Fracturing a pelvis at that sort of age is almost, you're very rarely going to get back on your feet. It's so challenging. But having that surrounding muscle tissue and stronger bones later in life, if you do happen to fall, the chances of a break is a lot less. And if it does break, your chance of recovery is a lot higher.
Yeah. As well, as we are getting older, the testosterone level after 35 goes down 1 to 2% yearly. So strength training is beneficial even in a way to keep your testosterone level higher.
For sure.
And when we are there with the hormones, well, what do you see as the most challenging part for male to keep the hormone level high, and this particularly in the case of testosterone?
Yeah, I think that your biggest killer of testosterone is stress and cortisol. So like high stress individuals, particularly men who are high stress, whether it be work or a relationship or even lifestyle stresses that you bring on yourself, testosterone tends to decrease a lot faster the higher your stress levels are. So to mitigate that, what do we need to be doing? We need to be doing strength training. We need to be doing a healthy diet, high protein, and we need to be doing some form of cardiovascular exercise. If you're doing too much of that, again, we can see decreases in testosterone again. So it's a fine line of how much you can handle in terms of stress and then how much you can recover. So again, obviously most of our recovery happens at night while we're sleeping. So if someone's sleep numbers aren't where they need to be, in other words, if they're not getting 6 hours a night, and of those 6 hours, 25% is spent in REM sleep and 25% is spent in deep sleep, this is where majority of recovery happens, and that needs to be the forefront of sleep management, is trying to hit those numbers on a regular basis.
Makes sense. Obviously, I see on my own case, if I go to bed at 10, or if I go to bed at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, I'll not get same amount of REM deep sleep. And then overall, if I wake up once or twice, my sleep will not be the same as it would be without waking up, right?
Yeah.
When we are, I would like to speak about testosterone, and obviously, what is, in your opinion, most effective and natural strategy to boost testosterone levels, especially for males who are 35 plus and who are listening to this podcast, and who are indicating, we'll come back to it later, what are the certain signs of low testosterone in males, but what is in your opinion, what is the most effective natural way?
Sure. Obviously, the biggest rocks to move are going to be strength training. In other words, heavy lifting. When we lift heavy weights, compound movements, we tend to see a rise in testosterone levels during that session and then moving after the session as well. If you're doing higher reps as well, you tend to see increases in growth hormone release. So I think strength training is probably going to be the number one thing you can do as an adult male to maintain or boost levels of testosterone. The next is going to be nutrition. I like a very high protein diet, and I like a very quite a high fat diet as well.
Sorry, I have to ask you, what about uric acid? If you are prone to, let's say, to high protein diet, usually uric acid goes up. And how to manage that? I know several guys who were coming to me and saying, okay, listen, I agree, protein is very important, but what about uric acid?
I think the uric acid dilemma comes from the quality of your protein. For instance, I used to eat a lot of red meat when I was living in Australia. When I mean a lot, I'm talking about half a kilo a day of red meat. And when I did that, I got high levels of uric acid, which almost gave me gout in my ankle. And as soon as I reduced my red meat intake, not cut it, just reduced it, and replaced that with high omega-3 fatty fish, I almost saw those uric acid numbers go back down to base level. So I think it's more so what I found is red meat tends to increase uric acid. In particular, if it's not good quality red meat, again, that's quite hard to get good quality red meat around the world. You need to be quite meticulous when you're looking for a butcher. But I think if you're eating a higher seafood-based diet, it tends to reduce those uric acid numbers. That's what I've seen anyway.
Let's get back to the testosterone and that I cut you off with boosting testosterone levels. You said you have nutrition, high protein, strength training, and then you can boost the growth hormone with the high range of reps. What is the next thing? What's your stance on supplements or like sun exposure?
My next big rock would be sleep. I think if you're getting poor quality sleep, you're just not going to be able to boost your testosterone levels like someone who is getting quality sleep. So I think sleep is extremely underrated as a test booster. So I think that sleep needs to be one of the biggest things you focus on. Now, if people have problems sleeping, then you need to find out what is causing you the biggest problems of sleeping. Is it your mind's racing at night? Is it you're getting up to go to the toilet? Is it you can't fall asleep? So whichever category you fall into, you need to sort of find a supplement and a bedtime regime, similar as you would have a morning routine, to ensure that you're getting quality sleep. The next one would be supplements. So I think...
What's your stance on that? I tried several of them and they were working, but again, when you work on something, most probably you'll get you will just engage with other things, and then it will create this balance, you know.
Yeah. The test boosters.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can see stuff like Tonkat Ali and Fedosia agrestis have been shown to increase test levels. I think that something like zinc and boron and magnesium and vitamin D3 probably going to work better without any sort of side effects that you might get from using the Tonkat and the Fedosia. That's just my opinion. I don't have any scientific backing on that, but sometimes when you're doing a lot of test boosters, you tend to see increases in your lipid panel, so cholesterol can go up. Not that that's a bad thing, but if your triglycerides are going up, this is something you need to look at. So I found that zinc, magnesium, boron in particular, and vitamin D3, those combinations tend to increase testosterone without the side effects.
Yeah, makes sense. In that case, particularly, like when, for example, when person comes to me and asks what's the best supplement I can take, I say sleep.
Yep.
It's very underrated, and
Big time.
and people are just neglecting it, you know.
Yep.
I can pick up with the sleep, when?
Yeah.
And then you just deprive yourself.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Agreed.
And you don't realize that how bad it reflects on you.
I think the number is something like 80 or 90% of our recovery of our muscles and brain and tissues happens while we're asleep. So if you're not diving into those deep sleeps and those high quality REM sleeps, you're probably not recovering day to day. So whatever you're doing, whether it be working hard at the office or training or playing sports, if you're not recovering from that, it's almost like a cascade effect. Like it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, and you'll see problems somewhere else in life if you don't address sleep as a priority.
I would agree. You mentioned stress.
Yeah.
How to deal with stress? Do you have any strategy that is proven for somebody who is thinking that is high stressed?
I mean, it depends where the stress comes from, you know. So, I mean, if you have a poor diet, that can cause stress on the body. So obviously, you know how to fix that. Just eat better. If you've got stress at work, what type of things can we do? Well, sometimes you can't really control the work environment, but what you can control is the things you do outside of that environment, that being strength training.
You know, I figure out that people are always looking and searching for something outside of the box. Okay, I have high stress because of 1, 2, 3, 4, but they don't look at the things that are in front of them, which can be fixed. I'm not saying now you have to fix 4 or 5 things at the same time, but try fixing one. As you said, manage your diet. Try eating as less as possible.
Exactly.
Processed food. Dial in protein every meal.
Yep.
And you will see once you start changing small things, it will cause the reaction, right?
Correct. I think also when you start changing things and you can see a small benefit, then next time you'll change 2 things and you'll see a bigger benefit. And then maybe you change 3 things and you see an even greater benefit. So again, it's sort of like if you change one thing and you see positive results, you're more likely to change more. So I do think it definitely starts with changing one thing. Get one thing right and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, because they always they tend to get bigger part. Like what do I need to do in terms to fix one thing, and then they jump on everything.
Yeah.
And end of the day, just they've been overwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. I think just initially you just have to have a plan of action. Like, okay, I'm stressed out. What am I going to do on Monday to try and lower that stress level? Where is my stress coming from, and how can I change that?
All right. Let me ask you something. There is. I've been listening. So much people are saying 2 different things at the same topic. Can you lose fats and build muscle, as you are expert in body composition, right? Can you lose fat and build muscle without using PEDs at the same time? What would be your opinion? That obviously, people that have 2 stands there.
Yeah.
Some are saying it's impossible. Some saying it's possible. We have to be very precise with your nutrition. So what is your stance?
It's possible for a very small part of the population. In other words, if you are a beginner in the gym, you can see both muscle gain and fat loss simultaneously. But anyone else who has more than, I'd say, 12 months training experience, consistent training experience, will not be able to do both without PEDs. That's for sure.
Yeah. Or what is your opinion? It's been a while that I've been listening from guys who are trying to bulk up and they come on a cut. Is it waste of time actually, or it's something what it's proven to work? So you need to gain certain amount of weight and then you cut and then you say, okay, I got shredded. Yeah.
I personally think it is better to cut first. So I think it's the goal should be to get as lean as possible first, just to see how much muscle you have underneath the fat. And then from that position, one, you are more insulin sensitive. So when you increase your carbohydrate intake, your body will utilize those carbohydrates a lot better. Two, you will not all of a sudden get fat and too fat, because if you just go bulking, there's a chance you could push it too far. And before you know it, you look in the mirror and you're unhappy with the way you look. Your hormones are probably not in an optimal range to build muscle tissue. So I think getting lean first should be the priority. And then afterwards, you can look at trying to gain muscle tissue, because you have to be in a calorie surplus to gain muscle. You know, you can't create muscle out of air. You need fuel to do so. And that fuel comes in the form of calories. And most of the time it's going to be protein and carbs. So to get to a point where you're eating more than you're burning, I like a surplus of around 300 calories for guys, not too much more than that. I found guys who push the calories up too high tend to put on body fat very quickly. So the first thing is work out how many calories you burn in a day, and then add 300 calories
on
as
top.
Exactly.
Now, I forgot already. I'm going to ask about, let's say there is a male guy who assumes that he is low with testosterone levels. And he comes and say, okay, what is the red flag, or what are the sign of low testosterone in male body?
I think you're probably going to notice in your energy levels first. Like if you don't have much energy, you don't have much desire to do many things, you just mainly want to sit on the couch and do nothing. That's generally a sign of imbalanced hormones. I think as humans, whether it be males or females, I think we're designed to move. So I think when you lose that desire to get up out of your chair and move around and do something, I think that generally is the first indicator that your hormones, in particular testosterone, is a little bit lower. We see guys who have like not depression, but like lower levels of mood. They're less satisfied with things that are happening in their lives. So I think it's quite common. Low testosterone is coming from nutritional factors and lifestyle factors. And I think if you just change those things first, you generally don't need special supplements or vitamins and minerals to raise your testosterone levels up. You can simply do it by exercising daily, eating a whole food diet, and maybe getting some sunshine.
Makes sense. What is your stance of the percentage of young guys jumping on PEDs as they turn 20?
I think that's a mistake. Honestly, I don't think that a 20-year-old needs to be adding hormones to his body. I think that their hormones are already at a really prime level to be building muscle and burning fat. So adding more than that is only going to cause them probably run-on effects later on in life. Like if your body's producing X amount and then you start injecting a hormone, you will no longer produce that amount ever again. So I think it's almost like when you're in your prime, like you're in your prime testosterone making period, like utilize that to train naturally and grow as much muscle tissue as you can. And then if you still want to dive or go down that path later on, you can look at it plus 30, plus 35 is probably a better time to be exploring those options.
Yeah, sadly, but there's a scene that we see very often. I think for that, the most who I would put finger on are influencers around the world who are claiming the things out there, and we all know that only way to get to the point where you are wow, you need to have support, right?
Well, I think that there are some anomalies out there who are just genetically gifted.
Yeah, I would say 0.001.
Correct. A very, very low percentage. But if a guy in his 20s came to me and said, I want to look like X influencer, and he has not trained, I would say the conversation is not going to happen until you do 5 years of consistent training, 5 years of consistent dieting. After that, you may have reached your genetic potential of what your body's capable of. And then if you still want to grow some more, then you can look at going down that avenue. But it's a very taboo subject, anabolic steroids. And I think that too many young guys are thinking about it before exploring what they can do naturally.
Yeah, and as well, not only naturally, what are the side effects when you reach your 35, 40? Obviously, they don't think about.
No.
But anyways, I would like to speak about Ozempic.
Okay.
There is so much buzz out there around Ozempic for weight loss. It's a medication for diabetes 2 type. What is your opinion? What do you think about people who are using it? What are pros, cons?
Sure. So Ozempic or Mounjaro or Wegovy, they are all GLP-1 agonists. So basically what they do is they intercept your hunger hormones and your satiety hormones. In other words, when you want to eat and then when you eat, how much you eat. I think that for someone who is obese, they have neurotransmitter problems. In other words, they eat when they're not hungry, and when they eat too much. So I think although the drug was designed for diabetics, I think that someone who is obese can definitely use Ozempic or Mounjaro to get them on the right path, because they have this food noise that is in their head every night that almost...
Sorry, I have to ask you something.
Sure.
Kat. Do you think being obese is a choice?
No. That's a tough one. I think that once you get to a certain point, I think being overweight is a choice.
Okay.
But being obese becomes a disease. Overweight is not a disease. Obese is a disease.
So
And you will not understand, I will not understand it, but from what I hear from people who are overweight or obese is they have this thing called food noise, which it's like someone telling them they're always hungry. Eat, I'm hungry. But they're not really hungry. They just have neurotransmitters in their brain, leptin and ghrelin, that are out of whack. And this drug basically controls those hormones so they lose that food noise.
But the thing which I find challenging are that they don't get really habits. Like, when you get normally, when you place your clients on deficit and they been following that for a period of time, they create the habits, they create routine, and they know what does it mean.
Yeah.
What I see challenging and what is disposed in scientific research is that once they get off, they are prone to yo-yo.
Yeah.
So they get back to the point where they were.
Correct.
What is your stance on that?
Well, I mean, if you're 150 kilos and you lose 50 kilos, your life is going to be significantly easier and better with that less weight. Not only that, you will be healthier. So even if you do it through Mounjaro or Ozempic, you're a healthier person with 50 kilos less weight. When you come off the drug, this is where we see people rebound, right? And there is some education that needs to happen about healthy living and exercise and diet being the main contributors to your losing weight, because the drug stops you from eating. So it lowers your blood sugar, lowers your inflammation. It also brings your energy levels way down, so you don't really want to exercise. So the people that do exercise are exercising against their will because their body's telling them they need to relax. So I think that unless you learn the habits that are required to lose fat long term, then you will for sure yo-yo. But if someone has gone from 150 kilos to 100 kilos and they are now motivated to go to the gym and motivated to eat better food and motivated to go to bed earlier, I think that they'll see long-term gains well after they stop using Ozempic.
Yeah, but what if, let's say, you said that they stop eating, yeah? How do they protect their muscles then? You know, like you will be losing muscles. It's impossible.
Well, I mean, personally, I've seen people use Ozempic and they were not overweight. They might have used it for a short period of time. I want to lose X amount of kilos before a holiday or whatever. And if you can teach them to do as much protein as they can eat on a daily basis and strength training,
They would have to force themselves
for
to
sure.
eat. Okay?
For sure. You do have, it's a challenge because obviously you have zero appetite. Some people say they're almost repulsed by food. So I think you have to force yourself to eat protein and you have to force yourself to go to the gym to strength train. You need to do everything basically that is muscle sparing exercise, which is strength training, walking, and high protein diet.
Yeah. Another thing for the Ozempic is that there is not many data out there about really side effects, but obviously the people who are using that, they reportedly said that they have nausea, that they have like feeling of pain all the time in stomach, as well as you said, appetite is not there at all. And what is the right thing to do for somebody who is not obese, somebody who is overweight?
Yeah.
What is for you right thing to do? Is it to go for or to try naturally creating habits? Because people are prone to shortcuts nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
But if the shortcut doesn't harm you, right? What do we do then? You know?
I mean, again, I think you have to look at everyone individually. Like, what is their current body fat health level? Like, if you're asking someone who is, heavily obese, do I think it's a good idea? I would say absolutely yes, because I just don't think they'll have the motivation or the mental willpower to go on a diet and exercise at the level they need to lose weight. If someone is not overweight, not really, unhealthy, I would initially educate them on the best ways to do it naturally. But I'm not a doctor, so it's not my job to prescribe or recommend this drug, but it is my job. If someone comes to me and says, I want to use it, it is my job to instruct them on the best way possible to do it and how can they do it and maximize their results moving forward. So it's very individualized whether someone would be good on Ozempic or not good, but the symptoms are impossible. You cannot, you can't avoid them. You will feel shit. You will have no appetite. You will have low energy levels.
Grumpy all the time, yeah?
Well, I mean, I think the grumpiness comes from low energy, right? So you sort of got to decide what's the lesser of two evils. I'm going to take this drug and feel shit, or I'm not going to take this drug and I'm going to try and do it naturally, which is going to be significantly more challenging. So the symptoms are unavoidable. It doesn't matter how healthy you are or how unhealthy you are going to experience some symptoms of the drug.
It's the same for Ozempic and Mounjaro at the same time. Or Mounjaro is quite lighter, yeah?
I think it's really similar, to be honest. Like, everyone that I've met who have used or tried the drug say they use it on Monday, they feel shit on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then better on Thursday and better on Friday, and they get better as the week progresses, and on Sunday they feel almost normal again. Then they inject the drug again, and it's a vicious cycle.
How many? There is 2 cycles during the week, yeah?
I think with Mounjaro it's once a week, and Ozempic, from what I know, is also once a week. There are other ones that are daily. I think Saxenda is another one that people use daily, but from what I know about Ozempic and Mounjaro, they're once a week uses.
And they're quite expensive, right?
Yeah. I think that Mounjaro, it depends on the milligrams you get, but it's roughly a scratch under 2,000 dirhams for about a month.
Oh.
So, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. But again, you've got someone who's severely overweight and just can't seem to stick to a diet or get into the gym. If you can get them losing 25% of their body weight in a month, I'd say that as a win.
What is the let's say when we are there with the fat loss? What is the healthy way of losing weight, fat? In your opinion, how much in body weight it's optimal to lose per month?
Per month?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it depends on the individual. If you've got more weight to lose, then you're going to see higher numbers in a month. I will set higher targets for someone who's got more. If I think someone has not that much weight to lose, and if they lost too much too quickly, I would definitely start to push the calories back up again. I think a good number for someone who's overweight, really overweight, would be 0.7 to a kilo per week. For someone who's only a little bit overweight, I would say anywhere between 0.3 to 0.6 kilograms a week is probably possible, and eventually you're going to see a plateau. So if you can lose 0.3 a week for 6 weeks, that's 1.8 kilos. That's not that bad.
Great. Okay, let us touch the hot topic, carbs.
Yeah.
Let's bust some myths about. First of all, what is your stance of client eating actual carbs when they are on fat loss program?
Sure. Well, I think that I'm actually quite I'm not a fan of zero carb, but I think that carbs are something you can manipulate dramatically to see change in the body. I don't think protein should be manipulated. I think you should leave protein at a number. If you're not using any performance enhancing drugs, I think fat should be left at a number as well. You need more fat to synthesize hormones. So those two tend to be a higher priority to me than carbs in a fat loss phase, only because you need the protein to spare muscle. You need the fat to synthesize hormones. The carbs basically make up the rest of your calorie deficit. So yes, you need it for training, but you also have stored fat, stored carbs in the body. So your body,
glycogen,
exactly.
in your liver.
Exactly. So you can tap into that at any time, and I promise you will not have zero stored carbs. No one will have zero. There will always be something in there. So carbs are a great energy source. It's our number one energy source for anaerobic exercise, so weight training and high intensity cardio training. Carbs is the fuel you're going to use. So you should never have none, in my opinion. I think it's unwise to have none, but I think you can definitely have a low carb diet and see very positive results.
When it comes, let's break it down a little, a little bit more. So let's say, what would be your setup for somebody who is willing to lose body weight and to place the calories and macros in the right way?
Yeah.
What would be the protein? What would you say? Fats? What would you say in ratio? Like,
Sure.
Speaking in this way.
Well, I mean, let's say we've got a 40-year-old guy or a 45-year-old guy who is losing muscle tissue, his testosterone is going down. So I would set the protein quite high, somewhere like 3 grams per kilogram of body weight, or of lean body weight. Let's say lean body weight. If they've got, 40 kilos of fat, that doesn't require amino acids. We only need the amino acids for the lean tissue, right? So if he's got 60 kilos of lean muscle and 40 kilos of fat, you're looking at 180 grams of protein per day. If they have 60 kilos of lean tissue, I'm going to give them 60 grams of fat per day. And the carbs, I'm probably going to start at the same as the protein, depending on how much deficit I want to put them in. So usually I'll start with quite a mild deficit of 20 to 25%. I think going too hard too early tends to see adverse effects where people are just starving. So 20 to 25% calorie deficit. I have the protein up as high as I can get them, 3 grams per kilogram of lean body weight, and the fat is at 1 gram per kilogram of lean body weight. And then the carbs will just make up the difference. But usually the carbs and the protein are pretty similar.
Yeah, makes sense. But did you get this thing when you place a front of client clean diet, and when they see how much that's actually in food, that is huge amount, they say, wow. But then there are some hidden calories all the time. Sauce that they use, oil, nuts. Nuts are fucking dangerous, man. Like, you cannot stop eating them, and they are huge calories intake through that. When you open up and show them how much calories is actually in these small things, they say, wow.
Yeah. I think that what people get carried away with is something like if they're making a salad, what they do is they tend to just free pour olive oil, which I think is a big mistake. I would always measure everything, especially things that are high calories. Like fat has to be measured. So cheese and oils and nuts, they're not bad for you. They're very good for you, but they need to be controlled. They need to be weighed. They need to be measured, because if you're 20 grams over on your fat, you're looking at a large amount of calories as opposed to being 20 grams over of protein or carbs.
Carbs, yeah.
You know? So, and that 20 grams of fat could be the difference between you being in a deficit and you being at an energy balance. So I think you really need to monitor your fat intake in terms of just knowing how much is going into certain foods.
Makes sense. Gut health. I know that you've been using the bone broth a lot, and it's really. I read that it's for the gut health #1 supplement that you can take. So, what is your stance like on gut health, and how important is taking care of your gut actually?
I mean, I think gut health is such a diverse subject, and I probably don't know anywhere near enough about it. But I have seen with clients in particular what has seemed to work very well. And that's stuff like bone broth for one. Glutamine is another one that works very well for digestive health. And the other one I really like is prebiotics. So prebiotics are some of the minerals that are in some of the ingredients inside the bone broth as well. But prebiotics basically feed the good bacteria of your stomach. So like all of us are going to have good and bad bacteria in our stomach. Hopefully you have more good than bad. If you have probiotics, I think adding this raw material to your stomach is not always a great idea unless you've come off a course of antibiotics. So I generally don't recommend probiotics. I tend to recommend prebiotics, which is the food for the good bacteria in your stomach. Now you can get that in supplement form. You can get that from like kimchi or sauerkraut or even pickled ginger. These fermented food. Exactly. Fermented foods are prebiotics. In other words, fuel food for your good bacteria. But it's true. I mean, if you have poor gut health, you're probably not going to absorb all the nutrients in the food that you eat. So if you're just coming on a diet and you're not eating bad food anymore, you're eating good food, you want to make the most of that good food. To do so, you need to be able to break down that good food, and that is where the gut bacteria plays a big role. So if you have poor gut dysbiosis, if you've got some gut issues, maybe you're not assimilating all the nutrients from the food that you're eating. So I think having it's such a, like I said, it's a very diverse subject. So to tell that someone's got gut problems, I mean, if you have regular gas all the time, regular diarrhea or constipation or bloating, you probably have some sort of gut dysbiosis, and you probably will benefit from glutamine, bone broth, and prebiotics.
What's your stance on collagen itself?
Collagen is another great product. I mean, I switched from whey protein many moons ago, and not that I had any issues with whey protein. I used it for probably 10 years without fail, and I never really got bloated or anything. But as soon as I switched to collagen protein, I found that my fingernails grew significantly faster. My hair grew faster. So I think that collagen is especially as you get older as well, I think collagen is essential, definitely.
I agree. I switched completely from whey protein. I was bloated all the time. Whey
Really?
protein and oats.
Yeah.
Fibers were killing me.
Yeah.
I switched to Greek yogurt.
Yep.
And collagen. Game changer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bloated. I have no gas. It just works for me. Another thing that I wanna get over. Let's speak about training itself.
Mm-hmm.
There is always a dilemma about reps range and number of sets for hypertrophy. So what is your go-to when it comes to hypertrophy and rep range, set range?
Yeah.
How you should train actually, what split you should follow?
Sure. Well, I think that when we look at hypertrophy, you have to look at the guys with the most muscle and take the lessons that they have learnt about building muscle. Because at the end of the day, like, you can see these science nerds who will say, you know, you got to have 2 reps in reserve or 3 reps in reserve or whatever. They're not big dudes. So like, maybe science says that they're right, but I see bodybuilders who, okay, yes, they have anabolic steroids in their system, but they know how to build muscle. It is not all the chemicals that's causing the muscle growth. It is the way they train. So I personally think the difference between someone who's a steroid user and non-steroid user is basically training volume only. I don't think that the reps and reserve thing should train. You can probably I probably take in a workout for 1 set for every exercise to failure. And then sometimes I'll go, if I have someone training with me, I'll go into a drop set or a strip set where I'm doing more than failure. So I think that going to failure is necessary. I think you have to go. And I think the problem is that people haven't really worked out
How
where
often
that is.
people are go to failure?
Not
I
very
don't think.
No, but I think no one really knows where it is. I
Yeah.
don't think they train hard enough to get there. Like, I thought I knew where it was until I had a bodybuilder train me. And then I finally realized what failure was. I think you need someone to take you
push you,
there
yeah.
and beyond to really understand what it feels like to fail. And then from then you can understand, well, this is a level I need to train at to grow muscle tissue.
So let's say the optimal way for training for hypertrophy for somebody who is listening this today and he's not aware how long he should spend in the gym, how to start, how many reps, how many sets, what is tempo, time under tension, anything that they can pick from this podcast from you today, what would you say?
You probably need, I would say, anywhere between 10 and 15 sets per muscle group per week to see growth. You probably need to be taking 3 to 5 of those sets to complete failure. In terms of tempo and time under tension, I think that beginners tend to respond better to higher reps. And as you get more advanced, you tend to respond better to, you can use lower reps more effectively. So for a beginner, I would say do 10 as a minimum, 10, 15, 20 reps. It's easy to reach failure with high reps because it's not a dangerous load. You know, I think that people think about failure as like, I'm going to drop the bar on my chest. But if you are using a lighter load, the chance of you dropping on your chest is very low. Or you use machine weights. If you're using machines, you can never, you're safe, exactly. Yeah. So tempo is again something that people don't really utilize that well. most people just move the
So
weight from A to
just-
B.
Yeah, swing around.
Exactly, without really thinking about it. So I think as a baseline, 2 to 3 seconds on the way down on every exercise is
Deep
just
stretch.
it's just an easy place to start. Like count in your head, 3, 2, 1, and then push. If you do that with every exercise, I promise you'll have a better workout than just not doing anything, just moving weight. And range of motion is another thing. Like as you said, get a deep stretch. Like you need to take that muscle through its full range of motion.
Have you ever look around the people in the gym and see how much they don't know what they do actually? Like, it for me is just like,
Yeah.
I get shocked sometimes. How this guy is not injured.
They're probably not lifting enough weight to get injured, or they're doing machine weights at a very short range of motion, so they're probably not getting injured either. But I think that a lot of people, including myself at one point, can benefit from hiring someone to coach them effectively on training mechanisms and overload techniques and range of motion and tempo and all these things.
100%. I would agree on that point. You need to master things, and the only way is to get out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
Obviously, you will never train hard on your own. You will never push yourself to the point where somebody who knows will push you there. Obviously, you had a mentor. I had a mentor before, and I see difference in hiring somebody who is professional and who is expert in field.
Exactly.
Another thing, what is your opinion on Hyrox and all these things which are those days like?
It's not for me personally. I like the competitive aspect of it. Like I like the idea of, you competing with people. That's great. I think that Hyrox is probably more user-friendly than CrossFit because you're probably not going to get injured doing Hyrox, which is just running and rowing and, some sled pushing and stuff. You're probably not going to get injured doing that. I think CrossFit, when it gets like some more technical based lifting, beginners probably shouldn't dabble in those because they just don't have the support structure.
Not only lifting, to recover from CrossFit, just 2 weeks. A week of CrossFit. It's impossible to recover unless you take PEDs again.
Well, I think if you do nothing but CrossFit and sleep and eat, it's fine.
All right, yeah.
But if you have to go to work and you have to manage kids and you have to manage a wife and you have to manage a business, CrossFit's probably not your best idea. You are going to run into problems because high exercise does tend to have an adverse effect on our bodies. In other words, cortisol goes up. And if you're not managing that cortisol while you're sleeping, it stays up. And that's when high cortisol all the time is when you get an injury or you get burnt out. And when you get burnt out, you pull a hammy or tear a pec or a bicep or something like that. So every exercise is good. Any exercise is good. But it's about what is the best exercise for you that's going to give you the best result with the least chance of injury. And for most people, it's probably not going to be CrossFit. It's probably going to be strength training, and it's probably going to be some sort of cardiovascular training.
Yeah, just zone 2 cardio. There is no excuse of not doing any kind of zone 2 cardio. It could be cycling, swimming, walking, whatever. There is no excuse.
No.
And then people tend to say that they have no time for doing any kind of activity. It's pretty sad, right?
It's all a matter of priorities. Like, no one has no time. But, you just need to get better at managing your time. I train guys who work extremely long hours and still have families and business trips and whatnot. And I still manage to get them in the gym to do sessions on a daily, if not 3 times a week, just to give them a break from their lives and come in the gym and lift weights or come in the gym and do some cardio. So I don't think no one has no time. I think they have no motivation to find the time.
100%. Low priorities,
Correct.
as you said. And obviously, I cannot relate to these people who are saying I don't have time for gym. I have no time to do any kind of activity. I really
Yeah.
cannot relate. I believe there are some people who are thinking different than me, you maybe, but I cannot relate to them, and I just doesn't get to my head at all.
I think a lot of the time with these people, they haven't actually felt what healthy feels like. And I think that being healthy is a feeling. Like you feel healthy, you feel good. So I don't know if they know what that feels like, because if you do feel that, you're never not going to exercise. You're never not going to eat healthy, because you know how good it feels to be healthy. Until you have that feeling of, I have good energy, I'm sleeping well, I'm eating well, I'm training hard, I feel like my focus is better at work, I feel like, more masculine because my testosterone is higher from lifting weights and eating well and sleeping well. I feel my relationships are better. More people are respecting me. So I think that not having the feeling of healthy is what's causing people to not exercise, because they don't know what it feels like. Once you have that feeling and you understand what being healthy is and what it feels like, I don't think you ever want to give it up. I certainly don't want to give it up.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that they, as you said, they don't know the feeling of that feeling after training,
Exactly.
of that feeling of
Exactly.
like feeling strong, powerful, feeling confident actually in your own
For sure.
skin.
For sure.
All of us, we do have kind of the things that we are not able to change, but in these days today, when everything is available and you can hire an expert on almost every corner, there is no excuse for not attending to gym. And even if you don't know what to do, everything is available.
Yeah.
And you just need to push yourself. There is a quote, I don't know if I'll quote this very well, but Tony Robbins said, "You can do everything you want."
True. Exactly. If you want to do it, you will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. You got to have that desire to go and change and eat better and exercise. If you don't have that desire, then you're probably not going to do it.
100%. 100%. Last thing for today, your opinion on cold therapy and sauna. Obviously, you didn't want to talk about that, but that's what left for today.
Sure.
So let's get to the thing about ice bath, cold deliberate exposure or sauna. What's your stand?
I mean, I hate the ice bath, but the fact that I hate it is also the reason I love it, because you're doing something that you're uncomfortable with, and it's a challenge, and afterwards I feel great. But when I'm standing next to that bath and looking in there, I'm like, oh, fuck, man, I don't want to get in there. I do not want to get in there. But after you do it, you have a sense of accomplishment, even though you haven't really done anything. You just got in cold water. Physiologically, from what I've spoken to about people who are experts in cold therapy, they say there's no additional physiological benefit after 6 minutes. They said
just lose your warm thing inside. Like you feel free. Like
And so from up to 6 minutes, the goal is to get to 6 minutes in as cold as you can. Now I'm sure you can go more than 6 minutes.
Yeah, when you pass this barrier of 3 minutes, you can stay forever. I mean, not forever, but 15 minutes is doable.
It's doable.
Yeah,
for sure. The coldest I've done is 5 degrees, and I did that for 8 minutes. Now, after speaking to this guy, like I probably wouldn't go for more than 6 minutes anymore. Like
you lose the heat actually. You lose the heat, and then you just feel cold with no reason. Like,
but if someone tells me like 6 is optimal and like you don't get any more benefits after that, I'm probably not going to do any more than I need to do. I'm just going to do the 6 minutes and get out because it sucks. But I would say the best time to do ice bath would be after you play sport, as opposed to after weight training. Yeah,
as recovery
from sport, not from weight training.
Not for weight training. Yeah.
So if you're looking at hypertrophy benefits, it tends to like shut off some pathways that promote muscle growth and protein synthesis.
Inflammation goes down.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Correct. So if you're playing paddle or playing football or running, ice bath afterwards, fantastic. If you're weight training, probably not the best time to go afterwards. Sauna. I think sauna is also one, in particular infrared sauna, red light therapy, infrared sauna. Again, I do them both at the same time. So I'll do 15 minutes in the sauna and then 6 minutes in the ice bath. And then I'll probably go back in the sauna afterwards just to warm up. I'm not super well versed on red light therapy and how good it is for you. But again, it's one of those things when you do it, you just feel good afterwards. So like I like to do things that make me feel good, and infrared sauna, and in particular more so sauna than ice bath, but the sauna afterwards I feel good, you know. Some people said if you go in the sauna too much, it can lower your fertility levels,
yeah,
because
it's true.
your balls are too hot or some shit like that. So, I mean, if you go into the sauna and then jump in the ice bath first, surely that sort of mitigates that those balls getting warm.
You know, I do quite a lot sauna. I do because I love it.
Yeah.
I feel great.
Yeah.
And then people are coming to me and saying, you shouldn't be doing sauna every 2 days. I said, man, you shouldn't be drinking every day. You shouldn't be partying every day.
Yeah.
Doing sauna will not harm you
No.
more than like smoking a pack of cigarette
Not even close.
or having a beer on a daily basis
No.
would do, you know. Eating sugar. Man, sugar is the biggest killer today. The biggest killer today is sugar. That's what you shouldn't be doing. But doing sauna, cold bath, doing something that is actually giving you benefits on a long run.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, processed food is the real devil in our world today. And, you know, whether you're doing sauna or cold bath or whatever, none of those things compare to the damage you get from processed foods. So anyone who's drinking booze every day or partying or smoking or eating a lot of processed foods, really you don't really have any ground to stand on to compare that to sauna. Not even close.
Yeah. Anyways, we came to an end. I just want to thank you for today. It was a pleasure. I hope the people will enjoy what we spoke about, and there is a lot of information that you exposed. I just want to say to audience who are listening to that, if you like this episode, please subscribe on the channel and share with somebody who you think it could benefit from this today. Again, thank you so much, man.
Thank you for coming.
Was a pleasure.
I'd love to come back.
Thank you.